Welcome back. Today I'm going to talk about these fun little effects and sample player boxes from Bastl Instruments, the Wave Bard and the FX Wizard. Now, they're both labeled Bastl Castle 2, which might confuse you at first, but I think they're built on a common hardware platform, which means you could probably flash them with the same firmware as each of them. These have been out for a while, so why am I talking about them now? Well, what's very interesting is they recently got updated firmware that added USB MIDI. So USB port here provides power and now provides bidirectional MIDI information. In today's video, we're going to take a look at some patching ideas using the Wave Bard, using the FX Wizard, combining with a modular, with a MIDI controller, the drop here from Noisite, and of course the Oxy one for sequencing. But first, let's take a listen to some musical examples. So WaveBard is a sample player, and you can trigger the samples manually by just hitting the play button there. You can scroll through them using this sample knob here, and you can choose different banks of sample by tapping the bank knob. You can adjust the pitch, adjust the length. We've got a filter. By pressing this as shift, we turn that knob into filter. Low pass that way, high pass that way. Go low pass. We have a kind of a built-in FX here by using this knob here. Kind of a phaser flanger in that direction, and a delay in this direction here. So turn to the left for a delay, turn to the right for kind of a phaser flanger. Now you're already seeing you're going to be able to get some crazy sounds out of this thing just by a bit of modulation. Let's talk about what that looks like. On the right hand side, these three knobs control everything about the sample. So we got the pitch, we got the sample selector, we've got an LFO, we have the filter, and the volume of the output there. Make sure you have that turned up. I had to turn mine up all the way to actually be picked up by my mixer. On the right, we have our modulation control. So there's a built-in LFO, there's a built-in pattern generator and envelope and trigger generator that come out of these patch points. All the patch points with dark white around them are outputs. And you'll see the same thing repeated over here on the FX Wizard. These knobs, when you have patches going into them, control the degree of modulation applied. So if I take a LFO here, and we apply it to the sample mod, you see now we're scrolling through different sample selections, or we could play around with the pitch, we could quantize it. So this is giving us the basic idea that with built-in LFOs and these different modulation sources, we're able to load up samples and then dramatically warp and change them. Anyway, that being said, what about the MIDI side of things? How does that work? Well, now in the new MIDI firmware, which you can update using the update procedure on the website, everything you see here is now MIDI controllable using MIDI CC values. You can change the MIDI channel coming in over the USB, so MIDI comes in over USB. And the nice thing is the effects in the FX Wizard and the LFOs and both of the devices will sync to the MIDI clock. So you can change that by going into advanced setting mode. So if we do shift and FX mode and just hold it for 2 seconds, we're now in advanced mode and we can change different, and I always just leave this knob here at the top. It flashes white, which is the default. The priority goes to the MIDI clock. You can ignore the MIDI clock, or you can always default to it. I just leave it here on white. You can change the MIDI channel and all their parameters like that. It's all detailed in the manual. I'm not going to go into it in great detail. The point being, though, is once you have that set up, as soon as MIDI comes in over here, you will be synchronized to your main clock. So first of all, let's take a look at triggering samples of Wave Bard. And I've got a simple multi-track sequencer set up down here on the Oxy 1. And this is on, if my memory is correct, channel 1. I've got this on channel 1, this on channel 2. And so we just have notes here in this lower row triggering the sample. There you go. Straight up kick drum, nothing too interesting there. Now, when I'm triggering notes on the MIDI sequencer and triggering samples as a result, the sample knob isn't going to have any effect. But it does respond to if I send different notes. So let's just change these up a bit. I'll put another trigger in there. Now, I've just changed the notes in the sequencer, and we're now able to go right ahead and use this as our drums for today's patch demo. If I turn the length knob to the left, I get great reverse feature. I like that, actually. That's nice. Now, the rest of the parameters still work. So let's look at how we can MIDI modulate them. Now, because we can modulate things using MIDI, we can modulate all of these different parameters here. For example, I can set my MIDI controller here, this fader, to adjust the volume. Now I've gone ahead and mapped these two knobs here. The top one is going to be the filter over here. And it's a bidirectional, so we can go low pass to high pass. And the next one down is this FX here. So let's take a listen. Now, we also have a built-in LFO, of course. So let's take that LFO and use that to modulate the pitch information over here. Now, this little white arrow here shows you that these jacks connect to it, and we will modulate it using note, which quantizes to a scale. This knob then adjusts the degree of modulation. If I do a little bit of modulation, you can just get a little bit of variation. Different banks give different effects. Now, I may want to control that pitch modulation over the course of my sequence. And so that's MIDI sequenceable. So I can sequence the modulation depth of the built-in LFO. What I'm going to do this time, instead of using the drop, is I'm going to use a modulation lane on my Oxy 1. Now, the MIDI CC number corresponding to pitch mod is MIDI CC 15. So now that we know it's MIDI CC 15, I'll go into this mod lane here on my sequencer, and I will turn it on to 15 here. And the more we turn up the modulation, the more modulation is applied to the pitch, which frankly sounds a bit bonkers. Now let's modulate the LFO applied to the sample mod. So we can just change the CC number here to 17, which is the CC corresponding to it. So not only am I changing the notes, that's some delay from the effects, I'm modulating the samples using the built-in LFO as well as changing them using the sequencer. Things are getting quite different. It's very quick to come up with crazy, funky, glitchy sounds out of this thing. Let's take a look at applying MIDI control to the FX Wizard. Now, the FX Wizard shares a lot of the same controls that the Wave Bard has, so the same principles are going to apply. We've got MIDI CC values that map to different parameters here. We can either control them off our MIDI controller, or I might just do a little bit of sequencing of those, because when you sequence effects using MIDI in line with your sequencer playing notes, you can actually get some really fun kind of developments of the sound. So we have a very basic setup here at the modular. We got an envelope from Quality going into plats, going into cuts, which is a clone of mutable blades. And then that audio is coming out of the stereo out here into the stereo input on the Bastl Castle. Now I've got to make sure, of course, my levels are good. I don't want them too hot. And I can adjust the input gain by turning this knob, just so it shows green. The FX Wizard comes with 9 effects types broken down into 3 main families. There are the delay-based effects, so the green indicates we're on the basic delay. Now the delay is pretty cool. You get reversing, you get a lot of different kind of features with it. Then we have the amplitude family of 3, which are the panner, to pan the audio from left to right, a Bitcrusher, and an audio slicer, which chops it up into little bits. And then the last 3 are the pitch shifting effects, and they kind of take the audio, repitch it, and kind of allow you to play around with it. So you get 3 of those, and then you go back around to green. Same concept applies here. The amount knob controls the amount of the effect applied. We've got a stereo effect here, which widens the stereo field, creates kind of a phaser effect. And we've got a built-in filter in the feedback loop, feedback amount, all the usual things you'd expect in a delay or in an effects box. Nice thing is, of course, it's all MIDI controllable. So I'm going to hit play, and as I bring up this fader, I've already mapped it to the volume here. Now let's take a listen. This is the delay. And we can bring up the delay amount. Time this way is a kind of a division. We're getting a nice smearing. And we get these super quick delays. And I've mapped these 2 knobs here to control the delay amount. Bring up our drums. And of course, I can do things playing around with my drums. The filter as well. You can modulate the filter, and we can modulate a lot of different parameters. Now I want to modulate the amount of the effect that gets applied, as if I was slowly turning this knob up. Now, of course, I could do this using the LFO in here, but I want to use MIDI for this. So that knob there corresponds to Control Change 18, which is what I've set this up here, which is going to be this modulation lane. And I've also set this to play quite slowly, so it's at a quarter speed of the main sequencer, which means I can draw a kind of a slow curve that'll ramp up and build up to the amount of modulation I want over time. Let's take a listen. Next one is the Flanger effect, and let's actually go ahead and use the built-in LFO for this, because of course we can still use the LFO to do things. And what I'm going to do is modulate the feedback amount, and then we will MIDI sequence the amount of modulation going on. when the feedback amount is here, it's kind of a chorus effect. So it sounds like something is falling off the shelf somewhere. Okay. That was a lot of fun. Just mucking around with modulation, sending modulation CC values from the sequencer and from a controller. Any controller will do. I'm just using my drop. Happens to be able to power both of them. But, you know, if you have another controller, it'll work just fine. And the two combined actually make a lot of fun. If you just were going to go on, personally, my favorite is the FX Wizard. I like it for just the crazy effects it has because it's Bastl. It's going to be crazy and it's going to be good and it'll sound good too. They are battery powered, so if you wanted to go on a journey, bring these with you. You could stick some AAA batteries or AA batteries in there and have a lot of fun. But for taking these with a small setup, I think you would be well served if this is the type of music you make. The Wave Bard, great for glitchy stuff. And if you want a little portable multi-effects box, the FX Wizard is ideal for that. Well, once again, thank you very much for watching. I always love hearing from people, so please leave a comment down below in the comment section. Let me know what you think about these or any of the other videos I use. I'll include affiliate links to purchase these in the section, the text section down below. I do appreciate if you use that. It helps support the channel. And thanks for watching.